I want back my rocking chairs, solipsist sunsets and coastal jungle sounds that are tercets from cicadas and pentameter from the hairy legs of cockroaches. I've donated Bibles to thrift stores, mashed them in plastic trash bags with an acidic Himalayan salt lamp. The post-baptism Bibles, the ones plucked from street corners, from the meaty hands of zealots, the dumbed-down, easy-to-read, parasitic kind. Remember more the slick rubber smell of high-gloss biology textbook pictures. They burned the hairs inside my nostrils and salt and ink that rubbed off on my palms. Under clippings of the moon at 2:45 a.m., I study and repeat. Ribosome, endoplasmic, lactic acid, stamen. At the IHOP on the corner of Powers and Stetson Hills. I repeated and scribbled until it picked its way and stagnated somewhere I can't point to anymore, maybe my gut. Maybe there, in between my pancreas and large intestine, is the piddly brook of my soul. It's the ruler by which I reduce all things now, hard-edged and splintering from knowledge that used to sit, a cloth against fevered forehead. Can I let them both be, this fickle faith and this college science that heckles from the back of the classroom? Now I can't believe that the Bible and Quran and Bhagavad Gita are sliding long hairs behind my ear like Mom used to and exhaling from their mouths. Make room for wonder. All my understanding dribbles down the chin onto the chest and is summarized as life is merely to ovum and sperm and where those two meet, and how often and how well, and what dies there. So that was a poem by Renee Nicole Good. Renee was shot and killed this week by agents of our federal government who subsequently called her a fucking bitch and refused to allow medical professional help to Renee, and then fled, and then, as a whole branch, lied about what happened and asked us to not believe our very eyes, but buy their transparent lie. How can this be? As you know, Renee grew up here. She went to high school right up the road. And the IHOP in the poem is still there. Renee is not. How can this be? Even when a thing is expected, the reality of it can come as a shock. So I am both entirely unsurprised, and in deep shock that agents of our executive branch assassinated an innocent person. It was really only a matter of time. It was quite likely the plan. Not to kill Renee specifically, but that someone, an innocent, inevitably would die. And tensions would escalate. Excuses to grab more power would be made. Chaos is the plan. Let us start with the obvious baseline that what ICE has been doing since President Trump's second term began, and even prior to that, is totally immoral, unnecessary, and increasingly violent. It is the enforcement arm of a scapegoating policy of racism that, to our national shame, got the terrorist-in-chief elected. Racism is now national policy. Yet to the people who wield it, racism is not in the name of any ideal except the accumulation of power into the hands of oligarchs and tyrants. Racism is just a means to an end. Domination is the end. And they have been practicing for nearly a year. Undertrained and emotionally damaged officers have been arresting reams of innocent people for a while now. Invading cities and homes, making warrantless arrests, citizen or not. Racial profiling, defamation, and violence have been the methods, all backed by the power of the presidency, a badge that supersedes the law, and a loaded handgun. Undertrained and emotionally damaged officers were thrust into situations where their primary purpose was to cause distress. Not to secure the peace, but to cause distress. Let's not kid ourselves about the utter fiction of them going after the so-called worst of the worst. If that was their goal, we'd have a new president. If that was their goal, they would not be incarcerating people with zero criminal record. In fact, about 75% of the nearly 70,000 people detained by ICE have no criminal convictions of any kind. And even fewer have a history of violent crime. But you know all this. You also know that ICE's impact far exceeds its just detention, right? They are deployed to sow fear and create chaos. Born of a terrorist attack, ICE is now the very profile of a terrorist organization. You might also know that 32 people died in ICE custody in 2025. Some were recent immigrants. Some were dreamers. Some died of illness. Some of suicide. Many, they say, by causes unknown. We know the cause of Renee Good's death. It was a death by a race-baiting president and a race-baited constituency. It was death by the desperate hiring of desperate men. It was death by violence being the only means of self-expression encouraged in the vast majority of boys in this country. It was death by patriarchy. It was death by tyranny and a gun and a man with a soul already damned and damaged. How can this be? That officer killed more than Renee. He killed our fiction of protection. He killed our naivete. Whatever harbor we felt in the midst of the rise of tyranny due to the privilege of our births, our by and large white skin and pension plans, that harbor is gone. If it can happen to Renee, it can happen to me and to you, to my wife. Are these people above hurting my children? Have they not hurt children already? We're pretty damn sure that their boss has hurt children, but they are obstructing an investigation into his sexual predation as well as into the shooting of Renee Good. So no, no one is safe. And I do not mean to re-traumatize you, but we must be clear-headed about this. We must face this fact and reckon with it, breathe through it, and find a way. We are not safe. The war has come home. We are no longer only defending others. We are defending ourselves. And in a way that's always been true, defending the Constitution and the rule of law, dismantling systems of oppression and racism, promoting common courtesy and compassion. These were always going to benefit us in the long run because they were going to benefit everyone, including our adversaries. And so we use them to defend others in the present. But now it's no longer so abstract. Not so long run or secondhand, or it doesn't feel secondhand anymore. The truth is that it never was secondhand. Our individual freedoms and our safety has ever been bound up together. It's just now that we feel it, we feel the truth of that in our hearts, and it is suddenly terrifying in a new way. Welcome to the party, I hear my black and brown and LGBTQ+ and homeless and women friends say. Yes, true. And be that as it may, I've been outraged and terrified for a while now, and it's getting worse, and it's getting more so. So you too, right? The rage and the fear and the grief, the despair. At least I'm not dismayed anymore. Shocked, but not dismayed. I still have hope, though. As dumb as that may be, I still do have hope. And weirdly, maybe even more hope than ever. For their desperation means that the system is on the brink. A revolution is coming. It reminds me of that line from Star Wars Rogue One, rebellions are built on hope. Actually, I disagree with that. Rebellions are not based on hope. Listen to me. They're based on faith. Hope concedes the possibility of defeat, whereas faith is a knowing. Now, I'm not talking about faith in divine beings or not limiting faith to that. Faith is a knowing in your bones that you and your dream will prevail someday. More than that, faith is a knowing that your dream defies all consequences up to and including death. And that is pretty important right now because they are not above killing us. But faith defies death. How can this be? This can be because faith is knowing that your cause, your why, your values and principles, compassion, love, justice, and equity, these are eternal currents. Faith is knowing that your life takes shape within those animating currents. These eternal currents are bigger than you. Your life is in them. And so faith is bigger than you, incorporates you, cares for you, irrelevant of time. Your faith cares for you. Your faith in compassion, love, justice, and equity cares for you because you live in them. They animate you. And those eternal currents, the fear of death, is less than faith in kindness. The faith that kindness is bigger than life. Kindness is bigger than life itself. It comes from life itself, but, it outgrew its origin. Kindness is bigger than life. Love is bigger than life. And in love, there is no fear and there is no end. And when you are out there this afternoon and tomorrow and all the tomorrows thereafter, confronting injustice with compassion until injustice is overwhelmed, when you are out there, plant your feet in love and let the fear go and let the rage and despair go with it. For in faith, we've already won. And that is how we win. That is how we build a new world. This faith. That is what our rebellion is built on. And that is the faith we must nourish here. For a rebellion must occur now. And a revolution is underway and has been underway. A revolution of the Spirit. A revolution of our story. A revolution of the story that powers our systems and our policies. It is ongoing. And when you commit to it, it is already won. So what to do? How do we nurture this faith so that it becomes a knowing, becomes a feeling that we know in our bones, inspiring us to new ways of being human and doing the work? How can this be? First, today and when needed, feel your grief well and truly, but don't do it alone. Feel it fully, lest it clog your arteries and stop your heart. Do it with others, because it is possible that grief is one of the most expedient ways to connect with one another. And therein lies both its cure and the birth of something new. So you could sign up for the grief workshop. It's for people who have lost a loved one, but it's also for people who have lost their faith in their country or neighbor. And it's also for people who have lost their sense of safety. And it's good to grieve together. So grieve, my beloveds. And then, don't be like them. Don't be shaped by fear and metastasized to hate. Then you're just them under a different banner. Remember your values and your faith when things get scary or tense or painful. Remember, with love at the center, justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. Love at the center. Dream of love, my darlings, my champions, my heroes. Dream of a world built on love. What would that be like? Act out of love. There is no other way out of the trap of history. Walk in love, confront with compassion, no matter the consequence. Damn the torpedoes, full speed of love. Place your life into the eternal animating current of kindness and let it grant you never-ending and courage. A revolution is is not coming. It's underway. It's a love revolution, a revolution of love, where from the desiccated corpse of America that never really got to be America rises a culture and country based not on aggrandizement and accumulation and fear, but on love and compassion. And then also, as Renee Good reminds us, make room for wonder. I'll close as I opened with a poem, this one by Amanda Gorman. It's called For Renee Nicole Good, Killed by ICE on January 7, 2026. They say she is no more, that there her absence roars, blood blown like a rose, iced wheels flinched and froze. Now bare ride of candles, dark fury of flowers, pure howling of hymns, if for us she arose. Somewhere in the pitch deep of our grief crouches our power, the howl where we begin, straining upon the edge of the crooked crater of the worst of what we've been. Change is only possible and all the greater when we labor in bitter anger, when the labor and bitter anger of our neighbors is moved by the love and better angels of our nature. What they call death and void, we know, is breath and voice. In the end, gorgeously endures our enormity. You could believe departed to be the dawn, when the blank night has so long stood. But when our bright fled angels will never fully be gone, when they are forever so fiercely good. Please rise and bow to your spirit.